Welcome back to the Southwestern Herbal Academy podcast. I'm so glad you found your way here today. Pour yourself something warm, find a comfortable seat, and let's settle in together because this one is close to my heart. We're talking about the nervous system, arguably the body's most overworked, underappreciated, and profoundly complex system, and the herbs that have been tending to it for centuries. If you've been feeling frayed at the edges lately, easily overwhelmed, sleeping poorly, wired but exhausted, or just carrying a low hum of anxiety that never quite goes away, first, I want you to know that is not a character flaw. That is a body responding to real demands. And second, I want to talk about some of the gentlest, most time-honored plant medicines we have for exactly that experience. Before we bring in the plants, let's talk briefly about what we're actually working with. The nervous system is divided into two main branches that most of us have heard of, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic is what gets activated when we perceive a threat, real or imagined. Heart rate goes up, digestion slows, cortisol and adrenaline flood the bloodstream, and the whole system orients towards survival. This is the famous fight or flight response, and it is a genuine gift when we actually need it. The parasympathetic side is where rest, digestion, repair, and restoration happen. This is sometimes called the rest and digest, or even the tend and befriend response. When we are rooted in parasympathetic tone, we sleep well, we digest our food, we feel connected to people we love, and our cells are doing the long, quiet work of healing. The problem, of course, is that modern life has most of us spending far too much time in sympathetic overdrive, chronic stress, whether it comes from work, relationships, health worries, screens, or the general pace of the world keeps that alarm system switched on, and the body simply was not designed to run that signal continuously. Over time, we see the effects: disrupted sleep, digestive trouble, brain fog, hormonal imbalances, immune dysregulation, anxiety, depression, or a pervasive sense of depletion. This is exactly where herbal medicine has so much to offer. Plants have been co-evolving with nervous systems for millions of years, and many of them carry compounds that speak directly to our neural pathways, calming overactivity, nourishing depleted tissue, and helping the whole system find its footing again. In herbal medicine, we typically talk about two major categories of herbs for nervous system support: nervines and adaptogens. They're related and there's meaningful overlap, but they do different things, and knowing the difference helps us choose more wisely. Nervines are herbs that act directly on the nervous system. Within that category, we have nervine relaxants. These are chamomile, passionflower, valerian, lemon balm. They calm an overactive nervous system, ease anxiety, and support sleep. Then there are nervine tonics, which are perhaps less glamorous, but deeply important. These herbs, oat straw, skullcap, St. John's wort in some traditions, actually nourish and rebuild nervous tissue over time. They're not quick fixes. They're the long, patient work of restoration. And finally, nervine stimulants like rosemary and peppermint, which uplift a sluggish or depressed nervous system. Adaptogens, on the other hand, work at the level of the stress response system itself. They help the body adapt to stress more effectively, reducing the magnitude of the stress response and helping us recover from it more quickly. Ashwagandha, holy basil, eleuthero, rhodiola. These herbs have been used across multiple traditions for exactly this purpose, and modern research is beginning to understand why. Many of them modulate the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is the master regulator of our stress response. All right, let's get into the plants themselves. I want to walk you through 6 herbs that I reach for again and again in nervous system support. And I want to do more than just rattle off properties. I want to tell you a little bit about who these plants are. Ashwagandha is a small shrub from the nightshade family, native to India, the Mediterranean, and parts of Africa, and it has been a cornerstone in Ayurvedic medicine for over 3,000 years. The root is what we use medicinally, and its Ayurvedic name, ashwagandha, means smell of the horse, referring both to its distinctive earthy aroma and to the strength it was believed to impart. It is classified as a rasayana, a rejuvenating tonic, and has traditionally been used for exactly what we might call burnout today: depletion, anxiety, weakness, and poor sleep following a period of prolonged stress. Modern research has identified compounds called withanolides as key active constituents, and numerous studies have confirmed that ashwagandha reduces cortisol levels, improves resilience to stress, supports thyroid function, and significantly improves sleep quality. It is warming and grounding in energetic character, wonderful for the person who feels anxious, cold, scattered, and depleted all at once. Best taken as a powder stirred into warm milk with honey, or as a long decocted tea over a period of several weeks to months. Lemon balm. If ashwagandha is the deep, slow nourisher, lemon balm is a gentle and bright, immediate comfort. It belongs to the mint family and carries that signature fragrance, bright, lemony, lifting. Herbalists across Europe have used it since at least the Middle Ages. It is a classic nervine relaxant with a particular affinity for what we might call nervous tension that lives in the digestive system, that tight, knotted belly feeling that so many anxious people know well. It calms the mind, eases nervous indigestion, supports sleep without sedating heavily, and has antiviral properties particularly useful against herpes viruses. It is one of the most delightful herbs to grow. It spreads happily in a garden and is wonderful fresh from the plant. Simple tea is the best preparation. Pour just boiled water over a generous handful of fresh leaves, cover the cup to preserve the volatile oils, and steep 5 to 7 minutes. Passion flower is one of those herbs that tends to find the people who need it most. Native to southeastern United States, it was used extensively by Cherokee and other indigenous people for its sleep-promoting and calming properties, long before European herbalists took notice. The aerial parts, leaves, stems, and flowers, contain compounds including flavonoids and alkaloids that appear to modulate GABA activity in the brain, essentially working through a similar pathway, benzodiazepine medications, but far more gently and without dependency risk. It is the herb I most often reach for when someone describes their insomnia as a racing, looping mind, the kind of sleeplessness where the body is exhausted, but your brain simply will not stop. It is also excellent for anxiety that has a tight, constricted quality to it, or for people who grind their teeth, clench their jaw, and carry tension in their neck and shoulders. Tincture works well, as does tea, and it combines beautifully with valerian and hops for more serious sleep support. Holy basil, or tulsi, is sacred in the Hindu tradition, grown in temple courtyards, offered to deities, planted near doorsteps for protection. And once you spend time with this plant, you understand why it has been regarded as something special. It is an adaptogen, but it is also a spiritual herb in the truest sense, one that seems to lift the spirit while calming the mind, sharpening perception while easing anxiety, opening the lungs while settling the heart. Ayurveda classifies it as sattvic, promoting clarity, purity, and devotion. Modern herbalists love it for stress that shows up as mental fog, emotional overwhelm, or that particular flavor of anxiety that is also accompanied by low mood. It is rich in antioxidants, mildly antimicrobial, and has a documented effect on blood sugar regulation. The taste is extraordinary, aromatic, clove-like, warm, and slightly peppery. Tea, made by steeping the fresh or dried leaf, is the most traditional and accessible preparation, and honestly, just the act of preparing and drinking it is medicine in itself. Skullcap is a native North American plant that most people haven't heard of, and that is a real shame because it's one of our finest nervine tonics. The aerial parts were used by Cherokee healers for nervous conditions and to promote menstruation, and it later became a popular 19th century American herb for everything from rabies, it was once called mad dog skullcap, to nervous exhaustion and insomnia. What we know now is that it contains bacillin and other flavonoids, significant nervine and antioxidant activity. It is particularly valued for what herbalists call nervous exhaustion, that depleting, threadbare feeling when the nervous system has simply been running too hard for too long. It is also genuinely useful for tremors, twitching, and the physical manifestations of nervous tension. Skullcap is best as a fresh plant tincture or a gentle tea. It loses potency readily, and dried skullcap products are frequently adulterated, so quality sourcing matters very much with this herb. And then there is milky oats, perhaps the most undersung nervous system herb in the entire Western materia medica. This is the common oat plant, harvested at a specific moment in its growth cycle when the seeds, if squeezed, exude a white, milky fluid. In that form, the plant has a profound nourishing and restorative effect on the nervous system. This is the herb I think of first for the person who says, I just don't have any reserves left. Long-term stress, grief, burnout, recovery from illness, years of poor sleep, milky oats is the deep replenishment these situations call for. It works slowly and requires patience and consistency, but the effect is real. The fresh plant tincture is by far the most potent form. Dried oat straw tea is gentler but still beneficial for daily use. It is also deeply safe, one of the safest herbs we have, and can be used long-term without concern. So how do we actually work with these herbs in daily life? I want to offer a few practical frameworks. The first thing I'd invite you to consider is the difference between acute support and constitutional support. Acute support is what you reach for in the moment. A cup of lemon balm tea when you're heading into a stressful meeting. A few drops of passion flower tincture when your mind won't quiet at bedtime. This kind of support is real and valuable, but constitutional support, working with herbs over weeks and months to genuinely shift the baseline of the nervous system, is where the deeper transformation happens. For that, you want consistent daily use of herbs like ashwagandha, milky oats, holy basil or tulsi, or skullcap. Think of it like building fitness. One run doesn't change your cardiovascular health, but running regularly over time absolutely does. A simple daily protocol might look like this. A morning cup of tulsi tea to start the day with clarity and grounded energy. A lunchtime addition of ashwagandha powder to a smoothie or warm drink, building that adaptogenic foundation. An afternoon cup of oat straw tea to sustain and nourish, and in the evening, a relaxing blend to wind the nervous system down, which brings me to the recipe I want to share with you. I call this one the Evening Unwinding Blend, and it's one I come back to again and again, both personally and when I'm formulating for people dealing with stress and poor sleep. Combine 2 parts lemon balm, 2 parts passion flower herb, 1 part chamomile flower, 1 part tulsi leaf, and a half part lavender flower. Use 1 heaping tablespoon of the blend per cup. Pour water just off the boil. Cover your cup to keep the volatile aromatic oils from escaping into the air, and steep for a full 10 minutes. Sweeten lightly with raw honey if you like, and drink 1 cup in the hour before bed, holding the cup in both hands, taking a few slow breaths of the steam before you drink. This is not just supplementation, it is a ritual. The act of slowing down, of being present with something warm and fragrant and intentionally healing. It is itself nervous system medicine. Before I close, I always want to address safety because I think good herbalism is responsible herbalism. The herbs I've discussed today are among the safest in the Western and Ayurvedic materia medica. They have long histories of use across many cultures, and serious adverse effects are rare when they are used appropriately. That said, a few important notes. If you are on pharmaceutical medications, particularly antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, sedatives, or thyroid medications, please do your research and ideally consult with a knowledgeable herbalist or integrative healthcare provider before adding herbs to your daily routine. Some herbs, particularly St. John's wort, have well-documented interactions with certain medications. Even gentle herbs can have interactions worth knowing about. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding, the picture changes significantly, and you should be more conservative and get guidance from a qualified practitioner. And please, if you are dealing with significant mental health challenges, depression, trauma, or anxiety that is seriously impairing your quality of life, herbs are a wonderful complement to care, but they are not a replacement for appropriate professional support. The most powerful healing usually happens at the intersection of many modalities, and there is great wisdom in reaching for all the good help available to you. What strikes me most every time I come back to this subject is how these plants meet us exactly where we are. They don't demand that we be different or better or less stressed. They simply offer their quiet, consistent medicine, rooted, patient, older than any of our anxieties. There is something very grounding about that. In a world that moves faster every year, and bodies running harder than they were designed to, these plants have been here all along, growing in hedgerows and temple gardens and window boxes and wild fields, offering exactly what we need. I hope something in today's episode gives you a place to begin or deepens a relationship with a plant you already know. If you'd like to go further on your herbalist journey, please download the Herbal Foundation Starter Guide from our website. The link is in the description or show notes. Take good care of your nervous system. It is doing extraordinary work on your behalf every single day. Until next time, be well and be rooted. Take care. Bye-bye.